Hello and welcome. I'm Maria from Maria and Music, and I'm here to talk about our blended and very own signature music monomodal learning approach. It is directed to parents, families, carers, childminders, and anyone who is actively working in early years music education for children, though it can be adopted for other age groups as well. So, the three perspectives of the music monomodal learning are funneling the child's awareness and self knowledge of music through these realms. So, music from the body, music from the mind, music from the heart. I will explain a lot more about it later on, but something very important to bear in mind is that they are connected, they are interrelated, and they sometimes happen. Concurrently. So, as you can see from the diagram, there are overlapping areas which are very useful because then we can make more connections. So, a little bit about me. I've started working with children when I was 16 years of age in Portugal. There was a project for children who were going through very challenging circumstances at home and in school. And as you can see from the photograph, there I am dressed as a boy with a basket in the forest with my friend. With lots of children attentively looking at what we were doing. We're bringing books to life. And throughout the summer, the project was about making stories in books come to life. Since then, I've had a huge and very long career in sales, music publishing, and I started my career in London. Moved to the UK in the late 90s, and then had a parallel career in music, training to sing, learning the piano, learning to acquire my skill set on the stage in recording studios. And I moved then to Dubai for about 11 years, where I was a teacher, a classroom teacher for 5 years, and spent 2 years before that as a learning assistant from foundation all the way to secondary. I was part of the judge. Part of GEMS for primary schools and dance as well, and did a lot of musicals, a lot of choir directing. And today I run and very proud to be part of Miriam and Music. So today I'm working very much in the early year segment, although I also teach singing for all ages and abilities. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm very active there. And if you have any questions after this, you are welcome to put them forward on the channel there. So why is the music landscape for early years so confusing and daunting and sometimes overwhelming? We're going to understand a little bit more about it and what's available, and we're going to look at specifically what is the music monomodal learning, why does our learning approach work in comparison to others, and practices that we can adopt and exactly practical ways of implementing it. So, to understand this, you're here because you either homeschool your child, you're a music educator, you might be a childminder, or you're a parent, or you work with children. So, this is directed to you. This is me proudly conducting a choir of about 70, yeah, about 65, 70 children for year 5 and 6s, and we're doing our Christmas concert. I do believe that every child can learn. A talent is not born. It is created through the environment and the love and care that we infuse our lessons and our sessions with. I never use the word talent for all my life because I believe talent is very obscure, an abstract word which is difficult to grasp for children. And I don't think it's conducive for children to understand learning as a journey in the arts if we use the word talent. So, what early years music approaches do we have at our disposal or available to us? Parents and carers and childminders either join groups or they may do some special educational music sessions or not, more entertaining than educational. They might be more social, or they are at home. Or alternatively, you can also invest, if you can, in instrument playing or groups of educators who may come to your um, home to teach. So, which choices do we have? Obviously, the blended music monomodal approach has been developed considering these mainstream theorists and specialists in early years and children music education. You're probably aware of Dalcroze Rhythmics, which was implemented, sort of developed in Switzerland, Germany at the turn of the century. Of course, at that point, And before that, music was very much taught in a one-way street. So the teacher would sit and stand or stand at the top of the class, directing instructions, pouring their knowledge, so to speak, into the child's mind. The child was in a confined space, probably sitting at a desk in a room with 30, 40, 50, 60 children, probably even more. And Dalcroze came and changed that. And he said, no, children need to feel music, move, embody what they can hear. They have to show us their expression and translation of everything they are absorbing in the musical environment. And he changed the way that people teaching rhythm, the structures of rhythm, which are obviously the foundations of all music across the world. Then later on, we had the schools of Orff. Schulwerk means schoolwork. It was developed in Germany as the war was kind of starting. Orff integrated music, movement, and speech through improvisation. So it was very much based on language, a child talking about the environment where they were, then thinking about how do we integrate that into music, progress into movement, and improvising a lot of the things they could hear either in their environment or in the school environment. And as the name suggests, both Dalcroze and Orff were devised for the school classroom environment. So was Kadali, which was a method that was developed in Hungary in Europe at the kind of end of the war. And it was about singing. So it was about sound before symbology, before literacy in music, before pointing at a symbol and saying this is do or this is a one beat note or four beat note. So Kadali was very important because he said that singing and solfege were very important for the child to understand the movable do, to understand the structure of the musical notes and how they all fit together and how they could change. And obviously, he then developed the sequential literacy after that. Now, Karl Orff and Kadali were much more classroom orientated into instrumentation, but with the integration of movement and self-expression and improvisation, while Dalcroze is loved by stage. They're loved by schools of theatre and schools of acting, schools of singing and stage, because Dalcroze was about eurythmics, so showing us movement and flow through space. Of course, we had another movement developing in Asia, which was the school of Suzuki. You must have heard Suzuki, you always think about violins, and that's because the man who developed Suzuki method in the late 30s into the 70s was very important, and it spread across Europe very quickly. He said, why we're all focusing on self-expression, creativeness, and movement and singing and all that, but we're not thinking about instrumentation. How are we going to introduce instruments and structure the teaching of an instrument to a child quite young into their primary schools and secondary ages schools? So he developed the Suzuki method. He actually studied violin in Germany, so he picked up a lot of Karl Orff's sort of methodologies and theories. Of course, it's all a blend of that. He was the son of the first violin factory in Japan, which helped a lot uh, in his expansion of the school of Suzuki. So, what all these methodologies and theories have in common is that they are addressed and are looking at working with children who are over 3 years of age. You would never see any baby in an Orff class or Kadali and or Dalcroze for that matter. You would see practitioners at 4, 5 minimum in Dalcroze for sure. They can talk, they can walk, they're full of energy, and these schools were made to conform a child into collaborating in a school setting. So they were for formal music learning, which left us asking who is helping us acculturate and bring musicality and a musical brain into a baby from birth to 3 years of age? And that's a great question. That person was by far Edwin Gordon, who in America in the late 50s into the 2000s, he passed away in 2015, introduced, so developed research over many years with academia, with the help of academia in different parts of the country, brought all that research together and developed the MLT, music learning theory, which is based on audiation, so sound before symbol, always. And of course, he wanted to delay the the stress and the pressures of putting the child in front of a symbol and trying to point at it to say that that was a particular note. So he was based on developing audiation, acculturation, thinking musically, working through rhythmic awareness, through space and flow, focusing on listening with very little focus on notation until teens. He obviously worked very much in modes with movable do and la, which is minor key, and valued the human voice like no other theorist, because for him, the human voice transferred musicianship, okay, since time began. It is to a very large extent the truth. So all these we are implementing, and we are taking parts of each of those methodologies, the best parts, into our sessions in our monomodal learning. How? Because we, and I know, and you probably must have realized, that music ability is not innate. Though we are always learning and children are born to absorb everything in their environment, it needs to be nurtured. So just like the child needs to learn to speak by immersing themselves into listening to talk by parents and peers and siblings around them and imitating them through babble, they have to do the same process with music through early exposure, consistently early exposure, the right way in a loving environment where they can attach happy memories and good experiences to it. Because a memory is nothing more than an experience attached to an emotion. It then gels into a memory. Okay, very important. So music making and enjoyment emphasizes the character and the development sensibility and sensitivity of a child, not just the musical performances. And it's really important to realize that. So the core principles are that we use the mother tongue as the main vehicle to learn, because music is in effect learned through listening, so like a language. And we consider the two land sort of milestones of learning before walking, so 0 to 6, 8 months of age, then to 2 years, then 3 to 5 years. So they are stages of significant development. So parent involvement is absolutely key because they facilitate, of course, introduce and then model that at home. And of course, the attitude of that they have, the self beliefs that they have, will transfer to the child. So it's about repetition. It's about reviewing what we're doing. It's about observing the interactions that we have with the child at all times. We value that this methodology and approach has to do with learning in a community setting, not necessarily always, but it does reinforce the motivation to have them and increases the child's ability to communicate, to want to express themselves. And performance from the start is very important, building confidence and musical expressiveness. You don't have to have a child at a certain level to be able to do a little enactment of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. You need to always open those possibilities and cherish the child for trying and support them because they will value that. So the three perspectives are based on three realms of physical, so spatial and physical awareness. So it's about showing what we can hear, how we can tap to the beat or rhythm, what is a macro and micro and beat or meter. How does the pattern go? Can we jump? Can we flow? Can we swing? Can we tap? Can we say sounds with our bodies? Can we use resources to show what we can hear? Is it the wind? Is it the water? Are we in space? Are we in the jungle? Feelings and emotions is if you choose to start from the heart, you might want to sit the child in a circle and analyze a classical piece, okay, which has to, has a greater wealth of richness and contrast. So, is this, how do we feel about this music? Does it make us feel sad? Does it make us feel happy? Does it make us feel unsure, lost, found, scared? Yeah, and bring these emotions to the surface. So it's about being aware of what we feel when we go through the piece. The third one that you can choose to go down as a kind of a funnel of awareness and perspective is the thinking and communicating, which kind of blends in and consolidates the meaning of why the song was created. So the meaning of the song and interpreting it is part of our thinking perspective? Can we think of a situation where we can hear it? Can we work out the message of the song? Does it have a special meaning? Does it have a beginning, middle, and end? What do the words actually say in the lyrics when you will reach the lyrics? So, how do we implement it? It's not just about saying, "Oh, it's a monomodal learning. You can do it from the body, from the mind, from the heart." What does it actually mean? So, for instance, if you were doing Jack in the Box, so music from the body, and we want to situate Jack inside a box, you can make up a little square on the floor, okay? You could sit on this square and you can start tapping. You can start with the rhythm. So once you funnel and decide on the perspective, you then move on to the five musical elements in order and in sequence so that the child learns that the foundations are always rhythm and the beat, yeah? Then comes the tone and the pitch. Then comes the speed, altering the speed of those elements. Then comes the volume. And at the end comes the contrast, which includes the texture, the structure, the words, the actual way the song begins, comes into a climax and ends. So these steps, for instance, if we were in Jack in the Box, are very easily done if you know the sequence of things you have to do. So that is how we conduct our sessions. And as you can see, there's a lot of things on the screen, but effectively, if you look to the left, you can see the structure of the three perspectives, then the five key music elements you need to explore in order and in sequence. And to the right, you can see all the theories of learning and approaches as a free flow of learning, always considering that we place also sound before the picture, before the image, before the resource, before the instrument, before the words. Because language, the body and the mind goes to a different place when we have words in a song. It focuses on the words and the meaning. So we don't want to detract the child. We blend those music theories into one single approach by using those perspectives. So very quickly, if we were to do an exploration of music in an activity from the body, we could use prompts like I'm going to move to this music and show how it goes, tapping my drum or tapping in my body, so body percussion. How would you do it? If you were thinking about a relatable aspect of music from the body, this music sounds like I can move like this. Have we done this movement before? Can we use this instrument before? Can I put a shake into this? Can I connect that movement in my body to something else and model that? If you want to link that to a family or home situation, you could say, when do you make this sound? Is it when you splash at home? Can we tap these sounds? How do they move at home? Does your dad do this sometimes in the car? Do you cycle to this sound? An abstract is, show me the sound in your body as if I can't see you. What if I was under the water? What if I only had one arm free instead of two? What if we had different animals doing it? What if we had other environments? Show me how it would affect your body when you're trying to make the music. If we're exploring the music from the mind, you might think, let's think about how is it relatable to the child? So is it a repetitive number of thoughts? What is the meaning of the song? What sort of thinking are we doing when we're singing or tapping this music? Is a song happy, sad? Do they have an understanding of how the song goes? What kind of sound can you hear? Is it thin? Is it thick? How can the child think in terms of what happens with the parent or the people very close to them that they have contact with when we think about the song? What if we could think about this song under the water as an abstract or new environment for the music? If you're exploring the song from the heart, an activity could be, how do we feel about the song? What emotions are strongest? What things can we feel it? Do we like the song? Do we not like the song, and why? Is my family going to enjoy the song when I share it with them? And why would they like it? Would my sister or my brother like it? Would my grandmother like it? What did mum and dad do or say about the song when you took it home or when they played it to you? How can we make it so it feels more like a happy song or it feels more like a scary song? So as you can see, it's very straightforward once you have the perspective and you know how to go through the stages of music elements in order. So as I said, think about these principles of repetition, reviewing, and the ability to interact with the child considering these elements in order. So rhythm and beats, this is always about the first element to explore within the three perspectives, regardless of which one you choose. Ask the child to show you the rhythm and the beat and how it goes. Tap it, drum it, speak it, break it down, move to it, and explain. The second is always going to be the tone. So think about tonal perspectives of the song. Start with a chant, start with abstract words, start with intervals, start with high pitch and low pitch, start with anything to do with reflecting the music. It could be bells, it could be xylophone, it could be a glockenspiel, it could be a little recorder, it could be a little harmonica, anything you can play, or ukulele. Then think about the speed. The third element is always the tempo or the speed, also known as that. Think about the rhythm and the tempo, the tone is introduced, and change them according to different speeds, fast and slow, moderate and very fast. Ask them to move to what you just did. Ask them to not do what you just did. Think about volume now. Layer up something else that is different. Keep the speed and change the volume so that the child can tell that that's the only thing you're changing. This is the fourth element. So volume can be confused with speed because of that. When we try to sound louder, we tend to move faster. So always good to keep your speed and say, let's play it a little bit louder, or chant a little bit louder, or tap a little bit louder. And then contrast is this fifth element, exploring the dynamics, thinking of phrasing, the textures of instruments, accents, the words you're going to put and layer on top of the song, and bringing out the child's imagination through playing with words. So I hope you enjoyed this quick and very compacted explanation of our own signature music monomodal learning approach. And if you have any questions or comments or suggestions, I would very much like to hear about them. So I will see you very soon. I'm Maria from Maria Moon Music, and take care.